Hi, welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. Things have continued in a mixed vein recently. Last weekend brought another named storm. That's very unusual, of course, for this time of year. But in the south and the southeast especially, it has often been drier and a good deal warmer. Does that set the direction of travel for the next 2 weeks? As usual, I'm going to start by taking a look at the view across Europe and the North Atlantic. The animation runs from 18 GMT, Tuesday the 22nd. At the outset, low pressure is centred to the north, high pressure to the south. Therefore, the risk of showers increases as you head northwards across the UK. In the short term, not a great deal changes, but keep an eye on southern England during Thursday because there is a possibility at least of some heavy rain there for a time. Moving forwards though, as we head towards the bank holiday weekend, a change takes place. Low pressure starts pulling away eastwards and cooler air moves down across all regions from the north or the northwest. And it's quite a showery, mixed setup, but the details still up for grabs. Running this forwards, the chance of showers along with spells of rain continues, drier periods too, but through the first half of next week, the unsettled conditions continue. Areas of low pressure keep pushing in from the Atlantic. Further showers, further longer spells of rain, very possible. With the isobars packed quite closely together, it's also rather windy, especially for the time of the year. Here's the upper air temperature sequence, also the jet stream profile. To start off with, there is very, very warm air indeed over the near continent. But as has been the case for much of the summer, the jet stream is making a beeline for the United Kingdom and it's keeping that heat just to our south. As I run it, what happens is the jet stream often stays close to the UK, so not a great deal of difference, but the very warm air over continental Europe is pushed away southwards and eastwards, so the heat wave breaking there as we go through the first week. Looking at the 2 metre temperatures, which we can expect through the coming days, these are forecast maximums for Wednesday, 26 or 27 Celsius in the south, the southeast, so we've still got that very warm air close by at this point. Values lower as you head further north and west. But by Friday, the cooler air has moved down across all regions, so maximums now 21, 22 in the southeast and East Anglia. Into the bank holiday weekend and forecast maximums on Sunday. It's quite cool in the northwest, 14 to 16 in Northern Ireland, only 12 to 15 there, northwestern Scotland, but still a little bit warmer as you head southwards, 18s, 19s, 20s in central and eastern counties. Bank holiday Monday itself, not a great deal different, although it is quite cool there in the west of England, northern Wales, Western Scotland and Northern Ireland, but these values are going to be very dependent on the amount of cloud and rain, so don't take them too literally at this range. As I've said, there is some very, very warm air indeed just to the south of the United Kingdom. This shows upper air temperatures at 15 GMT on Thursday the 24th, 21, 22 Celsius there in northern France. So it has been a very close run thing for much of this summer in terms of whether the heat will make it to the United Kingdom or not. If you don't like the very, very hot conditions, then be grateful. Thank your lucky stars because the jet stream has just kept the really high temperatures to our south for most of the time. That shows up quite nicely on the Mogreps G ensemble plot as well. In the short term, 850 HPA temperatures are rising. In fact, one of the runs in the ensemble brings that very warm air into southeastern England just for a short time, but it is a big outlier. You can see it's a long way above the other runs in the ensemble. Most of them have maximums at around 15 or 16 Celsius at this level. And then there's a good signal for that cooler air to reach southern counties in the days which follow. I mentioned the risk of some heavy rain in southern counties on Thursday. The chart here is from the Met Office UK V model. It's for midday. and the yellows and orange shadings here are indicating some downpours, so maybe some thundery downpours showing up. But other computer models are taking this rain a little bit further south, maybe keeping it in northern France, so keep up to date with the short-range forecasts. It's only a couple of days ahead of the time from when I'm filming this, but even now there is uncertainty about the extent of this risk. But if it materialises, then it could be quite nasty. The bank holiday weekend itself, so several charts here. The one on the left is from the Met Office UKV model. That's a high resolution model which they run. It's valid at 15 GMT on Saturday. The showers there being shown to be widespread, but also a good deal of sunny interval. So a mixed day. The next two charts are from the Met Office global model. So it's got a lower resolution. That's why the plots look a little bit different. The one in the middle there is Sunday. The showers mostly in central and northern areas. Then on Bank Holiday Monday, it's indicating the possibility of some longer outbreaks of rain or some heavier showers by then affecting more parts of the United Kingdom. So keep up to date with the forecast details if you're planning outdoor activities through the August bank holiday period. Rainfall accumulations for days 0 to 5 in millimetres, ECM and GFS predictions. The lowest values in the south and the southeast, the highest in the west and especially the northwest. Moving forwards to the 0 to 10 day predictions, values have increased everywhere, the distribution somewhat uncertain. By and large though, probably the wettest areas are in the west and the northwest of Britain, but quite a lot of uncertainty with rainfall distribution again, as I've highlighted in recent weeks. Just as an example, if we get those downpours in southern counties on Thursday, then these totals will be underestimates, significantly so. How do the deterministic models compare with each other in more general terms towards the end of the first week? Here's the GFS, Tuesday the 29th. Quite a changeable or unsettled picture. High pressure over the Azores, maybe just having a little bit of influence at times, but all in all, it's the Atlantic which is dominating. We've got areas of low pressure trundling across the UK. The Canadian model, quite an unsettled pattern as well. High pressure to the southwest. The German icon has a high pressure region a little bit further northwards, perhaps having more influence at this point. The European ECM has a high pressure building northwards but further west in the mid-Atlantic, so it's unsettled or at least changeable across the UK. Finally, the UK Met Office Global, that also has high pressure to the west, the southwest. There's a feature there over the UK at this point, bringing that chance of unsettled weather, showers or longer spells of rain. So taking them all together, it continues to be a mixed picture through the first week and towards the end of it, with the driest conditions most likely to be in the south or southwest, the wettest in the north, perhaps the northeast. Lots taking place. As I say, the details of this range are uncertain, but what is clear, there is no signal for a prolonged period of dry and settled weather with high pressure dominating. Does that continue to be the case as we head through week 2? Of course, at this range, it's just about the trends and probabilities using the ensemble data to at least try and identify them. Here's the 16-day GEFS plot for London. Air temperatures across the top. Most of the runs are very close to that thick black line, the 30-year norm, and the spread is quite narrow. It's quite tight for looking this far ahead. There isn't such a wide range of solutions. Now, with that said, the thick green line there is for GFS operational, and it does go quite a lot warmer there. It brings back that warmth, presumably from continental Europe, or at least the southwest, for several days. But it is something of an outlier. Most of the ensemble runs are not supporting it. Although later on, towards the end of the second week, there is an upwards tick. The thick purple line, the ensemble mean, rises above that thick black line by a couple of degrees as a lot of runs trend upwards. Rainfall, well, across the bottom, there are quite a few spikes through the first few days, but later their number does seem to decrease a little bit at least. So perhaps the risk of rain does continue through the second week, but maybe reducing a little bit later on. 2 meter temperatures using the data table, so what we can expect down at the ground level. The first few days, this shade of orange dominates, 16s to 20s, but there is that warming trend perhaps becoming more evident through the second half of the week. 21 to 25 Celsius is shown by this colour, and just at the very end for 1 or 2 runs falling into the 26 to 30 Celsius bucket. So something of an upwards trend through the second half of the period, but all in all fairly close to the average for much of the time. Up to Manchester, the air temperature profile here similar to London, although there isn't really a warming signal later on, perhaps just recovering towards the average, a couple of degrees upwards, but again, good clustering with most of the runs, not a big spread of solutions. In terms of rainfall spikes there across the bottom, quite a few early on. Their number maybe also decreases later, so that ties in with what I've just been saying about London. 2 meter temperature trend. The 16s to 20s are dominating through the week. There may be a little bit of an upwards tick there towards the very end, but not a very notable one. Up to Glasgow, close to average air temperatures as well. A similar story here. Although even towards the end, the thick purple line, the ensemble mean, is staying just a fraction below that 30-year average. So the warming trend here is not apparent at all. Rainfall spikes, well, they continue to show up in reasonably high numbers throughout the second week. So that ongoing risk of rain. The 2 meter temperatures, the cooler trend as you would expect in the northern half of the UK. So more yellows here, runs forecasting between 11 and 15 maximum, but also quite a lot of the orangey yellow, which is the 16 to 20 Celsius category. There isn't a clear trend, at least not a marked one, perhaps dipping a little bit towards the very end there, which is different to the locations further south. Rainfall probabilities for the second week. These are showing the chance of 5 millimeters or more of rain falling on the first 3 days. The yellows and oranges largely in the west and the northwest, so that's where the greatest chance of these rainfall totals being recorded is. The yellows, oranges indicate around 60 or 70%, generally drier in the east and the south. Moving forwards to the second half of the second week, the highest totals again seem to be focused on the northwest, or at least the greatest risk of them being recorded is in the northwest. The amount of white shading and light blue shading has increased, particularly on days 12 and 13 across much of England and Wales, though. So a signal there for it to turn a little bit drier towards the very end. So as we go through the second half of week 2, perhaps turning drier, if this is correct. The GEFS mean surface level pressure plot for Friday, the 1st of September, so the start of the meteorological autumn. At this point, it's continuing to be quite mixed. An Atlantic flow across the UK, high pressure from the Azores, weekly building towards us, but not really being the key factor in the UK's weather, at least according to this. The mean surface level pressure data table for York. So going through week 2, around the 1st, there's quite a lot of green there. Those are runs going for between 996 and 1010 millibars, so lower than average pressure. Also a significant amount of yellow. Those are going for close to or a little bit above average. And the yellow increases there through the last few days of week 2. So there is something of a signal as well for pressure to be rising as we go through the second half of the second week. And perhaps that ties in with the weak warming trend, which was apparent on the London plot So maybe something of a change taking place towards the very end. So to summarise, week 1, after a warm start in the south and the southeast, temperatures dip. Generally changeable, with showers or long spells of rain at times. The wettest conditions are likely to be in the west and the north, but there is that chance of thundery downpours affecting southern counties on Thursday. The bank holiday weekend, mixed. Week 2, changeable conditions continue. So wettest in the west and the northwest. Temperatures often close to the average, although there are some indications of it turning drier and more settled towards the end, at least in the southern half of the UK. So, there we have it, another mixed picture. The bank holiday weekend would seem to be, at this stage at least, a very typical British affair. Not a washout, but not blazing hot sunshine either. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please consider hitting the like button below. Also, subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Remember to keep up to date with the day-to-day weather details by checking the TheWeatherOutlook.com website. Thanks very much for watching now. Bye.